With the election coming up, the voter shamers are emerging from the shadows. Now, I mean, I really do find this incredible because if you thought that left-wing third-party voters could sway this election, the last thing you should ever do is shit on them. You should be catering to them. You should be working overtime to cater to them to make sure that they'll vote for your candidate, because that's the path to victory, according to what you're saying. So I don't understand. It's like they don't think this through because these people are impulsive, and really they're just Democratic in-group virtue signaling. That's what this is. I'm one of the good guys. I'm one of the good Democrats. That's what this is. And it's the lack of strategic thought that I find stunning as to how unserious these people are. So I'm talking about Bill Maher here, but there was another example. There was an Aaron Rupar tweet that blew up, and there were others. The voter shamers have really started leaning into it as we get closer to the election. Now, Bill Maher, I want to show you his comments. He went after these people. But unfortunately, HBO is being sort of like copyright trolls these days. And so I would be rolling the dice if I were to run the video for you. So I'm not going to do that, but instead I'll show you some of what he said. Mediaite says, Maher goes off on 2016 Hillary equivocators who voted third party or stayed home because, the lesser of two evils. Sorry, but you all have to eat it one more time because, oh, how I would love me some of that Hillary evil right now. He goes on. Bill Maher on leftists who don't vote for Hillary Clinton, quote, I hope you enjoy carrying your rape baby to term. You can name it Jill Stein. The anger is always directed at the voters. It's not directed at Hillary for not campaigning in many of these important swing states. It's not directed at her entire team for being strategic morons and losing the most winnable election of all time. It's for the voters who weren't sufficiently motivated. Again, if you were intelligent, you think, well, what do we have to do to get them out the next time? And so let's strategize and come up with a plan and do that. Instead of doing that, it's just anger and disrespect and shame directed at those same people who, according to you, are so almighty and powerful that they swung the 2016 election and can swing the 2020 election. So, I mean, that's the first point. But to me, I think there are two just sort of debate ending points that are just totally ignored in this conversation, which is what they're saying is not even true. So they did exit polls in 2016, and they asked the Green Party voters, if Jill Stein wasn't on the ballot, what would you do? And it was only 20% or 30% who said, yes, I would vote for Hillary if Jill wasn't on the ballot. And then you had, I think the biggest chunk was, I just wouldn't vote. And then you even had 15% or something that said they'd vote for Trump. Now, in his lazy mind, and in the voter shamer's lazy mind, they just assume, oh, let's get rid of Jill Stein. And then the Democrat would get all of those Jill Stein voters. They're just giving the Democrat all of Jill Stein voters. But that's not how it works, and that's not true, and that's not accurate. You have to ask those people, what would you do? And like I said, only 20 or 30% of them would have voted for Hillary, and that wasn't enough to swing the election in Hillary's direction. That wasn't enough. Did you know 9% of Democrats voted for Trump? 9%. And they never talk about those people. They talk about they want to voter shame. They want to voter shame the third party people. So you're just wrong. But beyond that, let's grant them their point. Let's take a minute and grant Bill Maher his point, which is, oh, if Jill Stein was, let's give all of Jill Stein's voters to Hillary, and then the election changes and she's picking the Supreme Court justice. If you're going to give all of the Green Party votes to the Democratic candidate, you have to give all of the Libertarian votes to the Republican candidate. And there were 3 times more Libertarian votes than there were Green votes. So Hillary still loses. Let's give all the green votes to the Democratic candidate, but not give the libertarian votes to the Republican candidate. That makes no sense. Bill, that makes no sense. You're just making up this dream world to blame the people who you want to blame, who are the powerless third-party voters who are fed up and sick and done with the system. The way you win these people, it's not rocket science, man. The way you win these people is to appeal to their material interests. And the third-party voters are uniquely concerned about that. The green voters are uniquely concerned about that. I would guess, if Joe Biden, even if he just took like 2 issues that he's already nominally good on and he really drove it home and made people believe he's actually going to do it, I think he would win a lot of these people over. Like, for example, $15 minimum wage. He says he's for a $15 minimum wage now, but he never talks about it. You want to know why he never talks about it? Because he's probably not actually for it. He just, was sort of pushed there a little bit by Bernie, and so he's like, yeah, whatever, I'll play the game. $15 minimum wage. Okay, why don't you ever talk about it? That's an issue that would get you a lot of these voters because they care about that issue deeply. So if Biden went out there and talked about that nonstop and really made people believe he was going to do something on the $15 minimum wage, a lot of these people would vote for him. The Buy America thing is another one. He says he's for the Buy America thing now, but he doesn't really talk about it that much. That's another one where if you drive it home, that would happen. If Joe Biden actually came out in favor of Medicare for all and talked about it in every single speech and really made people believe he had a change of heart. In fact, he can give like a character arc story involving Medicare for all. And he could say, hey, listen, it was the pandemic that brought me to this place. I realize, tens of millions of Americans are losing their health care, and Obamacare is not sufficient. It's not enough. I think we did a great thing with Obamacare. I think it was the first step, but the next step is Medicare for all. I get it now. I've seen the light. I see what's going on. It would take somebody that has a cinder block where their head is supposed to be to not see the answer now. So if he were to do that, I think almost all of the third-party voters would get on board. But Biden's not going to do that because he's a neoliberal corporatist to his core. And we know how he's going to govern, and he's not evolving in any serious way. So yes, some of these people are not going to end up voting for him. I do think that Howie Hawkins will ultimately get fewer votes than Jill Stein did by quite a bit. So I think Green Party will do a lot worse this year, and I think the Libertarian Party will do a lot worse this year. But yeah, if you really think these voters are responsible for swinging the election, then you should be catering to them overtime. And that is not what Bill Maher is really advocating Biden to do. To really take a stand on policy and bring everybody together. Nope. He's not doing that. And so he's a hack. He's a Democratic hack. I hate this stuff, man. It's so tough to watch. It's so tough to watch. The same people who have no money and no power and are left behind by the system and are really screwed, especially right now with the pandemic and the depression. These people are getting shamed and disrespected. And it's just amazing that they don't realize how counterproductive that is, Listen, even take away my personal disagreement with these people or whatever, even just from a purely objective strategic perspective. For the love of God, you're gaining 0 new Biden voters with this approach. So if that really is your goal, then you might want to listen to some of the advice that we're giving, because I mean it sincerely. If he focuses on things that will materially improve people's lives and makes them believe that he's actually for it, that's how you win them over. But here we are. It's like they're never going to learn their lesson. It's like we're in the movie Groundhog Day. They're never going to learn their lesson. And let's say Biden loses hypothetically. You know what they'll do? They'll say he didn't run right-wing enough. He needed to go further to the right. And then they'll also shame the left and say it's your fault again. So no matter what happens, if Biden wins, they will give 0 credit to the left. If Biden loses, they will blame the left. So, it's everything just leads them to restate their premise. And we live in hell. And it's rinse and repeat a million times over.